Hello.
Is it actually working now?
It is actually working now. I mean, there is a YouTube delay. You're not going to see it immediately happen over there. We're professionals.
At least every once in a while.
Don't need those anymore. All righty. Welcome to Grizzly Geeks. If you can't tell, there's a reason why. I'm Jeefy. Well, Jeff, but everyone knows me as Jeefy. And this is Bob.
Yep. Known as Mr. Bobby Tables across pretty much everything.
Please let us know if we sound all right, if there's something wrong. You know, as usual, this is kind of a hacked together thing, but, you know, we're here to have fun. Our goals here are to be honest and relaxed. This isn't meant to be some sort of formal conversation, more like a fireside chat. If anything, this is meant to be the opposite of formal.
If you can't tell.
With that said, there are a couple housekeeping rules before we get started. We both have jobs within, companies in the cloud native space. We are not wearing those hats during this. This is just Bob and Jeefy being themselves. It's December 20th. It is noon, and we just want to kind of relax and have a good time. We might tangent on Dungeons and Dragons. We might tangent on cars. We might tangent on cabins. Who knows? So just want to kind of set that out there into the world. Bob looks great, and I'm chopped liver.
You aren't representing Fippy.
That's true. That's very true.
I might not be wearing my hat, but I'm apparently
wearing mine.
Wearing Fippy's at least.
Okay. While there is no formal code of conduct, we're not going to tolerate people being inconsiderate jerks. This is the holidays. This is meant to be a happy time. This is meant to be a celebration. So just keep that in mind. Real-time feedback is welcome. We will try to pay attention to chat, and we might have a couple folks help moderate, but generally, feel free to ask questions, comments, etc. Yes, tangents are definitely going to happen because we cannot keep our heads straight right now. Anyways, so general welcome, who we are.
Go for it.
I am Jeefy, Jeffrey Sika, but Jeefy. My day job is head of projects at the CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation. All that really means is I interface with our different projects and make sure they're getting what they need, trying to identify things that can help them, and just generally helping out with the community. So that's my day job. But I was a Kubernetes contributor for the last 5+ years. Been using Kubernetes literally since it got open sourced, so 2014. Worked at Red Hat for a couple years before joining the CNCF, and then worked at the University of Michigan with this clown for like 15 years. So needless to say, we've got a little bit of a connection here. So that's me.
Yep. I am Bob Killen, as I said earlier. I'm known as Mr. Bobby Tables across all the things. In my day job, I work for Google's open source programs office. But really what I'm known for is my time in Kubernetes. I am a current member of the Kubernetes steering committee in my second term. And I just recently stepped down from chair of SIG contributor experience. I was in that role for quite a while, and like he said, back at the University of Michigan we worked together. We've been doing this whole Kubernetes thing for quite some time. In fact, fun fact, back circa like 2013 we were actually doing stuff with like LXC containers, and then like Docker came along, and like we jumped on board with that, and then we saw like Kubernetes, and we're just like, holy shit, this is awesome, and hopped into IRC, and
hopped into the Google Containers,
the Google Containers
IRC
channel. And then from there, we tried to get Kubernetes up and going, bit too early. I'll just say it.
etcd corrupted itself multiple times in a weekend.
Yep. So we wound up going with Mesos for a while. these were to run like clinical applications, and then we jumped hard back into Kubernetes and have been going strong since.
Pretty much. So, just for those that don't know us, that's, a little bit of background. We've been in this space for quite a while. We have some... God damn it, Taylor.
Who invited the puns?
We have some pretty strong opinions. We also have quite a few ideas on how things should be. And this is just meant to be a stream where we look back at what 2023 did, also look at our predictions from 2022 about this year, celebrate some of the awesome things, talk about some things that might need improving in 2024, predictions, and then honestly, open Q&A about pretty much anything. We are here to just chill and kind of get some feelings about 2023 out. So that's that. So let's start off with 2023 in a nutshell.
Do you want to go by KubeCon or just things in general?
So I will openly say to those that you can't see our agenda, we definitely focus on events because not just externally, but internally within the CNCF, there is definitely a KubeCon-driven development cycle. So it's Amsterdam. I guess we can start with Amsterdam.
Okay. I did not get to experience Amsterdam.
Why is that?
Because the day that I got there, not the day that I got there, the day of the Colos, the first day of the Contributor Summit, I tested positive for COVID.
Yep. And literally everyone treated me like I was radioactive, thinking that I also had COVID.
Because we're, generally just...
attached to the hip.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was treated like I was radioactive. Bob was stuck in a hotel room for multiple days. People were constantly asking what you needed. People wanted to bring you food and whatever you needed.
There were literally offerings outside my door.
It was like a shrine. People knew his hotel room number, and they would just leave stuff and knock.
And or just shoot me a message later or something. But the funny thing is, I honestly did not know I had COVID. The only reason I knew is that I took the test in the morning. So, as far as a COVID experience, that's probably the best I could have wished for. Just really, really piss poor timing.
Yes. Which kind of sucks because Amsterdam was incredible. I had a rough Amsterdam in terms of just my general KubeCon experience, but everyone I talked to said they loved Amsterdam. They loved the venue. They loved the location. Amsterdam's a beautiful city. It's very walkable. Very, very little drama.
Public transport was awesome.
Public transport was so nice. We sold it out. We could not have any more people in KubeCon Amsterdam. One thing that we kind of noticed was small and medium companies were doing a lot better in EU, in Amsterdam, than North America.
And that honestly tends to follow a trend that I've sort of seen over the past couple of years. Honestly, even a bit before the pandemic, where in North America, people tend to bias towards the big companies, the Googles, the Amazons, things like that, especially when swinging by their booth. But in Europe, people are much more okay with engaging with the small and medium companies, the Kubernetes, the giant swarms, groups like that.
Well, and the other thing, and I think this is something that we've been talking about. Why Amsterdam? I mean, this is a spoiler. Amsterdam had more people than Chicago, technically, and why is that? I think part of it is public transit, and just it is so much easier to get around within the EU, even compared to getting around within North America.
It's significantly cheaper to get around the EU than it is in the US.
So we're jumping ahead a little bit. We're pretty excited for what Paris holds for us, because we think, especially Paris being such a major transit hub, we're gonna have quite quite a large group.
For once, I don't actually mind flying into CDG because I'm not transferring through it.
I mean, the last time I was in CDG, I almost missed our flight home.
Yep.
Cool.
Thanks, Valencia.
So another thing about Amsterdam, we noticed, we're scaling back on the number of colos and moving the colos to a single day. It's better overall, but it does cause a little bit of stress to the people that may have to run back and forth to different colos. Sorry. And there might be a little bit of echo chamber selection bias. I'm coming up with the wrong thing.
I don't even know what you're getting at right now.
We hear a lot of complaints about people having to bounce around to different colos.
Yes.
But we also tend to be the people that are bouncing around to different colos. And I don't think the number of folks that bounce around is that large.
Well,
it's just
we bounced around. It's like
they also have the most impact, so we need to listen to them.
Yeah, it's the people that are speaking and organizing those things, and it really sucks for them to literally have to be running back and forth. Or this wasn't so much the case in EU, but like competing with the various like vendor events, like can't get out of having to show up to day job thing when that's your ticket for getting there.
Yeah. Also, Ian, I'm sorry you did nothing but practice during Amsterdam. I spent my entire Amsterdam in meetings, so that's no joke why I did not have a good Amsterdam. I barely saw anybody at Amsterdam. I saw people at breakfast, and then I was so socially exhausted, I didn't even really go out and do social things at night. I just wanted to go back to my room and crash. That's okay, by the way. So, in terms of, other things we observed with Amsterdam, and again, there are going to be some buzzy words. We apologize, but let's be honest, we do have to use some of them. Platform engineering is continuing to grow.
DevOps V3?
DevOps V3, yes. SRE was V2?
GitOps?
Then we're on V4.
V4? I know.
But yeah, platform engineering is growing. Backstage Con was very well attended.
It's actually been like the most well attended colo.
Bingo.
I think NA 2022, EU 2023. I don't know about NA for Chicago this year.
Yeah, I don't remember Chicago's numbers, which is weird because it was so recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this goes along. We're going to be bouncing around and tangenting a bit, but it makes sense because we are continuing to see the focus both on open source and on developers move up the stack. So it's like we now have this stable foundation. Now what other pain points are we seeing that are common across different projects, different companies, etc. Other big thing that came out of Amsterdam was the restart, the redo, the yet another LTS discussion for Kubernetes. But I think Bob wants to come back to it later, so we will.
No, like we can start it at least like partially now. So like in Kubernetes had an LTS discussion a couple years ago. Well, like 5 years ago, I think 2018 was when the first like LTS working group was created.
We talked about it in Seattle.
And at that time, it was just like the folks got together and basically determined it was completely infeasible for the project to do LTS at that time. And there's the group spun down, and
I'm going to.
You're gonna
move her.
Okay. Anyway, so the discussion really kicked up again in EU whether we should revisit this. Microsoft had their announcement of that they were going to support LTS. the big thing is, in general, people really underestimate the cost, both in terms of dollars and people, when it comes to maintaining an LTS, requiring like the additional testing infra, for like older versions, costs a large chunk of change. And considering we're already over our estimate for the AWS bill for next year, the run rate, admittedly we did a lot of the 5,000 node testing on there, but still we still have a lot of infra that isn't in there yet.
Correct.
So already we're having difficulty managing our infrastructure costs. But honestly, the bigger problem is just the people. Like there's when I'm stumbling here. When it comes to like the people that can actually troubleshoot deep issues in the API server, or work through tracking regressions.
That pool is small.
That pool is small, and it is hard and time consuming. So like my gut feeling is, I don't think Kubernetes should do an LTS. I know that is very
controversial.
Controversial in terms of especially what people want, but where I think the best investment of time would be improving our upgrade and downgrade SKU. So like being able to jump versions of the control plane. So like being able to, essentially update once a year, and instead of having to do like 3 times a year.
I mean, this is something you and I talked about long before we were even really contributors. So kind of going back to when we were working at the University of Michigan, we were working for most of our time there in the health system, again, doing clinical web applications. And something, if you don't work in, it's usually fintech and healthcare. You don't realize how infrequent people want to just touch anything. If it works, it works. Yeah. We had it was a Windows 2000 machine that was still running in like 2015, and the company refused to do any upgrades. Their security was, hey, we're going to make sure it's never on the internet, which I guess is fair.
Except lots of people do put them on the network. And also, what happens when you run into a bug with their software? Yep.
And we ran into that.
Sorry, this is going to be a mini rant in like healthcare. But like one of the big problems is a lot of these things are classified but as like medical devices. And so when it comes, like one of the reasons why they're so hesitant to upgrade is if they upgrade, they technically have to re-go through the certification process again. And that is like $200K and lots of time.
Yeah. So
they're incentivized to never upgrade.
You certify once and you move on, which sucks. So, yeah, going back to like Bob and Jeefy 2015, trying to figure out how could we the Kubernetes story before we switched to Mesos/Bash scripts, because Bash runs the world. Like, it would have been nice if upgrades were, a little bit more painless, a little bit more seamless. You can version jump, like 100% with you there. I feel like we're pretty close to that. And I mean, for me, my shitty little home lab over there, yep. Right? I upgrade every few months, and I'll upgrade to like 1.28.2. I'll wait till 1.29.2, upgrade, move on. Like, my stuff doesn't go down. I'm not a clinical web application. I'm not, hosting a bunch of stuff, but...
You are not an overworked ops person.
True. True.
And having to deal with, like... For a lot of things, honestly, Kubernetes kind of encouraged this behavior for a while, like running the beta APIs.
Yeah.
I don't remember what release they were turned off. But for a while, people were using beta APIs, and those are subject to change. And so they would use them, and then they'd find a situation where they can't upgrade. Or the other dependencies would change, and bad things happen for them. It's why the two big releases that hold people up are, I believe, 121?
Docker Shim?
No, that's Docker Shim, I think, was 124.
Yeah.
121 was the beta APIs being turned off.
Yeah, 121 was beta APIs. 124 was Docker Shim actually being removed, not just being deprecated.
Yep.
There we go.
And that was painful for people.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's hop back up.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of tangents, like.
So there was KubeCon EU. That was Amsterdam. That was a lot of fun. And then there was KubeCon Chicago. We both have a love-hate relationship with Chicago. I'm not going to try and throw shade at Chicago for past...
I will. It sucks driving through.
Sucks driving through. That's fair.
Their road planning is awful.
That said, I feel like KubeCon Chicago was well received. One of the things that I have been pushing internally at the CNCF is, of course, we need to have more fun. I'm the fun guy, which is weird to me, but like, I just remember early and mid in my career, the type of content that got me engaged, the type of content that actually taught me things, they weren't classes. They were like practical demos or like weird, silly shit that just made me think.
Or explosions.
Like,
yeah.
Yes. So I have been trying to push for, like, let's do more practical demos. Let's have a little bit more fun. So one of the things that I did was Clash Loop Backoff, which is, in a nutshell, Iron Chef, but with tech challenges. That felt really well received.
People came up to me at the Google booth when I was staffing it and mentioned that they had a really fun time at it. So,
well, good news. I have already been asked to do it for Paris. So,
asking for volunteers now.
I probably actually should. But yes. Who would win in a tickle fight between both of us? I would lose because I am insanely ticklish.
Just like it used to be a joke.
I actually will flail and punch people, just because it's like involuntary. So that's an easy though weird question answer. Anyways, Chicago, Clash Loop Backoff was good. Actually going back to seeing like a demo on the keynote stage, I thought was great. Yeah. I also thought that the fact that there was a little bit of a hiccup is good because
it humanizes the entire thing, because like everyone has been in that situation, and it's stressful and not fun. Like I actually think Priyanka's keynote was better because there was a demo failure during it.
And I mean, let's be honest, not everyone can or probably should be Kelsey Hightower with demos. Like, that's unrealistic.
He's had demo failures.
Exactly. But whenever people think, woo, seamless, absolute seamless demos, right? It's like, people don't usually think of Kelsey Hightower's demos. So, yeah.
The thing that like I actually really noticed at Chicago was it actually felt like pre-pandemic KubeCon finally. Even at Detroit, people were a lot more open and communicative, but like there was still just like the overall feeling of like burnout.
Yeah.
And just people weren't as willing to like, I don't say willing, but like just not, didn't have the bandwidth to like really engage. And At Chicago this year, that absolutely was not the case. People were open, people were having fun, they were open to just like random people coming to the conversations, and like multiple people, like other people, like I thought the same thing, and other people had actually like brought up noticing the same thing. So like, I know it wasn't just me, and I'm glad to see that, you know, the world is healing, and we're finally getting back to sort of, you know, the way things were pre-pandemic times.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Another thing that I kind of noticed was there weren't a lot of big, large vendor announcements. Everything felt a little, I don't know, incremental. Everything felt a little like there are small improvements. There wasn't any sort of big thing that was called out. It was just really getting everyone back together.
Yeah. I think a lot of those things are shifting to the more like vendor-owned events, like, you know, Google Next, reInvent, and there was another one that happened like right before KubeCon or right around KubeCon that I'm totally blinking out on.
I can't think of it either.
But yeah,
GitHub.
Oh yeah, GitHub Universe clashing
GitHub
with
Universe.
KubeCon itself. And a lot more of those big sort of announcements that we hear about seem to be going towards those.
Which, you know, I get it. It makes sense. You get, like, vendors got a vendor.
Yep.
I'm not going to knock them for that. So, yeah. What else? Oh, yes. Nikita, if you were watching this, you are wonderful.
Hopefully you're asleep.
Yeah, actually, hopefully you're asleep. But, Nikita, your keynotes were incredible. You are an inspiration. Love you. Please keep being amazing.
Yeah. The fact that, like, she was able to, you know, do, like, all the poem? Like,
yeah, the poem.
Yeah, all the like, she did it multiple times.
Yeah.
And like, just, she killed it.
100%. Hey, do you want to get into AI now? We'll just start. No. We'll just say Chicago was very much AI-centric, AI-adjacent, but there were some things that I feel like were done well. Like, again, the demo, Priyanka's demo, I thought was very good because it shows how AI and LLMs work within Cloud Native with that demo. The AI Hub, I thought was a fantastic
I was not
addition.
able to hit that one up.
So there's
I know it well.
Well, there's the AI Hub, and then there's the Security Hub, and essentially it's kind of like almost like the Contributor Summit, but focused on a topic, not a project.
Yeah. So it's like the Security Village and all that.
Exactly, but you know, again, that we didn't want to call it Village, so it was Security Hub, and then AI Hub, and then maybe in the future there will be other hubs. And I kind of like that as a way for our events to grow, and also let us continue to focus on interesting topics, not project centric, but industry topic. You kind of get what I'm saying.
That's kind of what the tracks themselves are, though. I get what you're saying, but like, I think that's a good place for where the like BOFs that KubeCon used to have, and like more unconferencey type things, to have sort of those bigger discussions.
Yeah.
I will say, and this was both for KubeCon this year, and for GitHub Universe, the amount of Gen AI or ChatGPT submissions was really, really frustrating. And it's kind of hilarious. Like, so I was the track chair of AI/ML and storage, and it's really hilarious to see a ChatGPT thing on LLMs be such a shitty submission that, you know, it just like it gets a 1 star. An LLM generating terrible things about LLMs.
What do you expect?
I would hope that people would actually, read submissions before submitting them.
Yeah.
Because some of them was just like nonsense.
That's fair. How's Paris looking? In terms of Chat GPT generated submissions that have made it through the great filter.
For my category, again, like AIML, it's a bit better. I think people learned a bit after last time because the other thing I'll say for KubeCon, NA, was like 95% of the submissions were about Gen AI, LLMs, whatever. And when 95% of those are on those subject, very few of them are getting in. So there's a lot more. The people that did get in were talking about things other than LLMs and Gen AI. So we've seen a bit more diversity this time around.
It works. Anything else with Chicago? Good food. There's good food.
I still think Detroit pizza is better.
100%. That is a war I will have, a hill I will die on. Detroit style pizza is better than Chicago. Both Chicago style pizzas. For those that don't know, there's technically two different Chicago style pizzas. Everyone thinks about deep dish, but there's also pub style. Not saying they're bad. I'm just saying I prefer doughy crust.
Yep.
Thick doughy crust, crispy edges, crispy bottom. Perfection. Other events that kind of happened. This one's mainly me. Was in Japan for 2 weeks. Just absolutely incredible community. I cannot stress enough how just committed and still like interesting. I don't know how to phrase this off the cuff. Like, the Japanese open source community is incredible. They are some of the best contributors in the world. I will outright say that.
Yeah, Akihiro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not just Akihiro.
Yeah. He's just the one that
immediately comes to mind. But, and so went to Japan. There was a Open Source Summit Japan at the beginning of December, but there was also a Cloud Native Community Japan that happened to coincide. Like, it was the Friday before Open Source Summit. That was insane. That was their first ever meetup. 150 people, packed room.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, they've put on like other meetups and things like that in the past. Like, they've run the most of the...
Dude, there's the Cloud Native Community event.
Yeah.
That's on the Friday.
Yep.
There's Open Source Summit, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yep.
There was an Open Compliance Summit, kind of unrelated, but Thursday, Friday. You know what Monday and Tuesday was? Cloud Native Days Tokyo. Like a 300-person or 400-person event.
They've done multiple like contributor workshops there, and they've been pretty successful.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, like, I think Shu is even...
Shu is one of the organizers of those contributor like workshops, and it's I love it. I love the energy there. I love the fact that everyone is very welcoming. Everyone just is there because they, it's part of their job, but it's also interesting technology, and the fact that, you can build a community there. The Community Japan meetup, the first one on Friday, like half the sessions were how to contribute, how to grow the Japanese contributor base more. It's just wild. You look at some GitHub stats. I think Martin showed us this in our last meeting. But you look at the GitHub stats, and it's like Japan is gonna, trending to become like the number 6 open source contributor overall. I think they're 10th now.
They're very much on the upswing.
Yeah. So, like, anything that I can do to help enable the folks in Japan, I am willing to do. Yeah. Now, it sucked that I got sick halfway through that trip. But
like normal.
Yeah. But yeah, Japan, Open Source Summit Japan was incredible. I got to meet so many cool people there. There was also an OSPO meetup. And like even that
wasn't that Stephen going to that one?
Yes. Augustus went to that one with me, and Anna put it on. It was wonderful. And again, that was another instance of full room. Like, I can't say enough how good like Japan and Japan's open source culture is.
Honestly, like this year, there's been a massive upswing in like KCD type events. They're just popping up everywhere. I honestly think that's a better model in general than
it's a more scalable model.
Yeah, that and it's like, and speaking of scale, it's just a shit ton more affordable for a lot of people, or just like accessible because of all the fun visa issues.
Is this the Edge style conference?
Jesus Christ. I'd say it's like DevOps days.
I know. What other events? There was Open Source Summit North America. That was in Vancouver in the spring. That was really fun. That was also CDCon, which was, again, just great getting that group of people together and being able to focus on that topic and like GitOps in general.
Yeah.
That was fun. I missed Open Source Summit EU, which kind of sucks.
I didn't go to either of them.
That's fair. Yeah, I think in terms of events, that's a wrap in 2023. Now let's talk about some Kubernetes things. Kubernetes infrastructure.
Okay, I will let you head this one off.
So at the end of last year, for those that don't know, Kubernetes was, let's just say, consuming quite a lot of Google resources, and we exceeded our budget, and it was bad. And there was no real good solution in sight until a few things happened. One, Amazon decided to graciously join and donate the same amount of credits that Google is externally. B, CNCF funded contractors to help with migrating certain K8s infra off of GCP and onto AWS. I shouldn't say migrate, spread. Spread is actually better because it's like the whole point is it's not exclusive. And then also helped with the model of being able to bring on additional providers.
Thanks, Kubernetes.
Thank you, Kubernetes. On top of that, Fastly showed up in a big way and started shielding binary downloads. We removed? What is it? I'm trying to figure out.
Are you talking about the packages?
No, not packages. I'm talking about like what we did with the registry and certain images are only being served off of AWS.
I don't know of images only being served off AWS.
Certain images are. And that's how, like, one of the, it's like the AWS EBS driver.
Oh, the vendor-specific stuff.
Yeah. Like, there's certain vendor-specific images that are now only being served off of Amazon, which makes total sense because a cluster originating in GCP probably, not definitely, but probably is not going to be using the EBS CSI driver.
Yeah.
And that was accounting for like 30% of the traffic. So we did a lot of optimizations. There are still more optimizations to happen. As you mentioned, we're projecting to now suddenly consume all of our AWS spend. But at the same time, we're doing massive scale testing, and we should probably rein that back. Like, I don't think we need to run scale tests every 12 hours. I don't think we need to run scale tests every day. The cost to benefit analysis to that is ridiculous. If you run them weekly, you're still going to be able to.
Are you talking specifically about the 5,000K?
Yes.
The 5,000 node jobs.
Even like the 100 node jobs.
No, I think the 100 node jobs are still worthwhile, and honestly, like they're fairly cheap, except when you're on Amazon right now. Part of the problem is like the nodes that are being spun on Amazon are larger than what's actually needed, and it's taking longer to provision them.
Yeah.
Than what it did on GCP.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to like advertise GCP or whatever here, but like when it comes to spinning up and provisioning clusters, fairly cheap is, I would say, I forgot.
Hey, can we answer that in like a month? Because one of the things that we are doing is installing KubeCost or OpenCost onto the clusters, the Prow clusters, and we'll actually be able to have very clear cost data on an individual job's cost.
Yeah. I think we're also using COPS for doing the jobs on Amazon right now.
Yes.
Instead of the dragons that are the bash scripts.
But the whole idea there is we're also going to migrate everything to COPS.
Yep. I know the goal is to migrate to COPS and, get things to be simpler and more uniform across everything. It's just there's work that needs to be done to speed up provisioning.
Yes. No, Taylor. Do you know if it's set up for spot instances currently? No, I don't believe it is. And yes, Jeremy. It turns out metrics are actually something that we should use and benefit from them.
The big problem, like spot instances, when you need 5,000 of them,
it falls over.
It doesn't work.
So that's Kate's infra, I think, in a nutshell. So let me. Registry changes. The registry is now spread across AWS and GCP.
Yep.
We have a Prow instance in AWS.
Yep.
And we're migrating jobs. So that is an instance where it's not spread. It's just there's two Prow instances, and then certain jobs target one or the other.
And
Fastly is doing binaries. We have Open Build Service.
Yep, Open Build Service.
We have Open Build Service that is now handling our builds and is doing debs and RPMs.
Fun fact, up until was it this year or was it last year? Either way, the debs and RPMs were essentially being signed and done everything by using Google's signing key and by Google employees on their personal workstations.
This year.
So that wasn't a scalable model, especially when, there's no one around to actually do that.
No. Someone with a figurative pager has to be around.
Yep.
Schedule an entire day.
The other thing that isn't happening, did start to happen this year, is migrating away from our deb and RPM package repositories.
Yep.
deb.kubernetes.io and yum.kubernetes.io. And those were hosted directly on a Google service.
Was it a single GCS bucket, or am I thinking
No, you're thinking something else. But that goes away soon. And there were people that decided to hard code directly to the paths.
Yep.
And they're going to be in for a surprise.
They're going to have a bad time.
They're going to have a bad time. P.S. Migrate soon, please.
Yes. I think that's all the big ticket things with Kate's infra. We now have an additional donation from Oracle Cloud. That'll be available in 2024.
They bring in people to help consume it?
Yes.
Okay.
What else? That's more. This is more of a CNCF thing and not like a Kubernetes thing. But we've had a bunch of projects that want. I'm not going to say whether, in my opinion, they need it or not, but they have requested a CDN service, and we're going to be able to offer that to them pretty easily starting like next year, probably like January, February.
Yeah.
So not Kate's infra, but it's kind of like related because of the technology. I think that's Kate's infra in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But in the end, like that was. I'm just thinking back to like January, February. The world is on fucking fire. To May, June. Hey, we're not on fire, but now let's actually optimize
we'll make it to
a
the
little
end
bit.
of the year.
Yeah, we'll make it to the end of the year. Huge, massive shout out to folks like, and specifically Arno, Ben the Elder, Muhammad, Dims. Like, these folks stepped up and they did so much work. Justin, like,
yeah, Justin.
Cannot overstate. They were the real heroes in this. So, thank you. Oh, God! Now we're back to the LTS conversation.
And we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, skipping updates, skipping releases, control plane will be more work. Yeah.
The before we dive into LMs, there's something on here that isn't something we really talked about, but I think we're tossed in here, but I think it's worth talking about, is all the macroeconomic changes.
Macroeconomics.
Yeah, that have...
I will go grab the bottle of obligatory alcohol so we can drink every time we mention macroeconomics.
No, we should do that for... Well, no, we shouldn't do that for AI because we'll both be dead.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of job cuts this year.
Yeah.
And it's been really, like, sad to see what winds up happening. There's a lot of projects that have lost maintainers because essentially they're like the entire division gets axed.
Well, I mean, sorry, not macroeconomic. Maybe it's related, maybe it's not. It probably is, but like, I have been saying for months the phrase open source recession, because you look at the relicensing, the great relicensings of 2023, and just a general pullback both from staffing, whether it's because of, cuts, or whether it's because of focuses, or whether it's because of takeovers. Like, regardless of the why, there's still you can feel like people are doing less open source. At least let me say, we are seeing less open source from the places that we have been seeing them.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is, and I've ranted about this multiple times now on, I think, like 3 different podcasts and a couple other places. It's just like a lot of groups don't know how to think about the business value of open source. And a lot of times when it comes to contributing to these various projects, they don't see it's hard to see like a direct benefit for a lot of it. And they think, okay, so we can cut people from here. This is not, helping the bottom line of the company or the company's goals. And, they are really hurting themselves, but they don't it won't hit them immediately. It'll hit them in months, because of them deciding to like shift around priorities and pull people off upstream projects.
So, funny thing, I did a talk at OSS Japan about best ways to start contributing to open source, and specifically the CNCF. And I gotta be honest, I pirated you. I yoinked one of your big things, de-risking the company. One of the use cases was you have company A and company B. They both rely on Kubernetes and something that is running inside of Kubernetes. Company A actually has a maintainer, company B does not. There is a new release of the thing that they are currently running and relying on that, sits in Kubernetes, causes Kubernetes to crash with a certain amount of traffic. Who's in a better spot?
Yeah.
The company A can literally find a fix They will be listened to by the community because there's an existing maintainer.
Yeah. Fun fact, I have I need to actually really consolidate the data down, but I do actually have multiple points of evidence where I know anecdotally we all know this, but if you're a maintainer submitting an issue or a bug or a feature request even, you get listened to a lot more than some random person on the internet coming in and some business commenting hey, we have this bug, or we would like this feature. But I think even beyond that, de-risking is important, but risk for them is always less than opportunities.
Yes.
And opportunities are the thing that will get people to be incentivized to actually use it. And there was in opportunities isn't necessarily just for features, but for things compounding development in terms of do we get a larger return on sweet time to this than we do in on internal effort. Can we get more for one head count, can we get 1.2 or 1.5 essentially head counts worth of work. And I've been trying to talk to people about sort of reframing how we talk about some of the value in this stuff, because that language really works well with the people making these sort of decisions when it comes to allocating people towards initiatives. And one example I'm actually going to bring up, I won't name the company, but I looked into their contributions to they're actually Kubernetes contributors. And they're essentially the decent maintainers of a sub-project that is business critical to their work. And they have roughly, it's 5 SWEs that are putting in anywhere from 5 to 15% of their time. And when it came to things time to get bugs fixed and time to get features and things like that, it was just crazy. Where you have these 5 people putting in that sort of time, and there's 230 other contributors and things like that in this repo. So them working upstream, a lot of the bugs and things like that they were submitting were getting fixed rapidly and a lot faster than they could internally. I'm talking with a average time to patch and release being 4.9 days. And that's average, not mean. Mean is actually less than that. It's 2.8 days, which is just insane when it comes to return on investment in terms of work and time for something that seemed critical. It's the same thing with features. They were able to do some of the work on the features, but it wasn't necessarily them that were completing them. It was other people, people from other companies working on it. So their time upstream wound up getting them a much higher return in terms of sweet hours or sweet time to get something done.
Yeah.
And that sort of language has worked really well. They just have to know that, sometimes that they're not going to be spending time on stuff that's critical to the business. They're going to be spending time on some of the stuff that's elsewhere, but you are getting more sweet time in return for that.
Well, and not only that, it's indirectly critical to the business.
Yeah.
It's just hard to quantify that.
Yeah. So I do consider it de-risking, but when it comes to, again, opportunities and time and things like that, that has worked well.
Okay. I'm going to crack open my non-sponsored caffeinated beverage of choice, and I'm going to let Bob go. Because I wrote a section in our little agenda or notes doc that was LLMs, aliens meme guy, because it's LLMs, and then I already forgot what this Twitter link is, but I'll post it in chat.
I don't think you can paste a link in chat.
What?
In YouTube chat.
Well, we're going to find out. Ha!
Oh, maybe you can as the...
So, LLMs are everywhere. Everyone is, again, aliens guy, LLMs. I see that when we talk about LLMs, probably like over the summer, one of the things that I said was when we can start running LLMs on our phone and when we can start doing things like chaining them together in a meaningful way, I think that's going to be kind of a turning point. And when I was writing this agenda, I am not kidding. I saw this and was like, holy shit. We can run an LLM on our phone.
Okay.
And so that's the tweet that I linked. That is what I will start with. And then I'm going to pull the grenade, pop this.
Okay. So there's something that I will also preface this with. After our time at the University of Michigan Pathology in the healthcare, we spent several years working in the Advanced Research Computing and Technical Services group.
Think HPC and batch, but for the whole university, not just the hospital.
Yeah. So we got to do a lot. We did some back in pathology, but we got to do a lot more with like AI ML type-ish stuff. And seeing all this stuff and just every company trying to shove AI into everything has been so incredibly frustrating. Like LLMs are neat and they work really well for some use cases, but yeah, stop shoving them into everything, and they are not the answer to every problem. Like, what was the thing with the GM dealership?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there was a GM dealership that decided to buy a chatbot to help with their, customer service or whatever.
It was customer service and sales.
Yeah, customer service and sales, and it was I think it was powered by ChatGPT.
It was.
But it was really poorly constrained. Optimized. And so, people got it to basically, with prompt engineering to, this is a legally binding contract. We will sell you this car for $1. And other various things like that. There's someone else that got it to spit out some random Python and a whole slew of other things. It became a meme online. People were just going to it and fucking around with it. And GM reached out to that dealership and had them put a stop to that real quick. And I've just seen that sort of pattern everywhere. AI and ML is great. There's a lot of good use cases for it. LLMs are pretty cool, but they don't have to be shoved into anything and everything. And I think one of those places is Kubernetes and the cloud native space. For me in general, I think CNCF and the whole ecosystem of stuff, when it comes to it's a great place for running AI ML and those platforms and things like that. But stop trying to shove an LLM into the Kube API server. It just does. What are you thinking? It just does not make sense. And the other thing that's been really frustrating is we all know they lie. They will make stuff up to,
what are they called? Dreams
or hallucinations.
Yeah, hallucinations.
And people think they're helping by responding to questions by going to ChatGPT and punching in the question, and the answer it kicks back is completely and utterly wrong or made up, and it causes more confusion because the person that asked the question doesn't understand it, and they're getting back an answer that looks and reads well but is complete and utter bullshit. We've had to tell people in the Kubernetes project to basically stop doing that. There are people that they're well intentioned. They think they're helping, but we have had to tell them to stop. And I actually recently had to do this on the Kubernetes end user forum because someone was just basically copying and pasting questions into ChatGPT and responding with it.
Quality. And
they were very wrong. And I was just like, dude, if you continue to do this, I'm just going to ban you.
So I will tell my story of LLMs without brand names.
Okay.
Here's a good example of the danger of LLMs. I was using... Whoop, did I press something? Cool. I was using, we'll say, an LLM thing, and I was using a text editor in order to write a message that I wanted to completely write out, figure out if, it made sense, if there was a flow, if I was too harsh, too emotional. Like, I'll do that sometimes. And it auto-completed a line to, trigger warning, legitimately. It ended the line with saying, therefore, I've decided to take my own life. And me being me, I first looked at that and went, oh, that's fucking hilarious. And then I was like, I should probably tell the product team about that.
Well, you messaged me.
Well, I messaged you.
And said, this is hilarious.
And said, this is hilarious.
And my immediate response was,
have you contacted the product team yet? To which my response was, no, I was going to tell them about it at our meeting in 2 days. And you, being the smarter voice of reason, went,
do it now.
Do it now. I did it then.
Yeah.
And it became a 5-alarm fire. It became a very serious issue. And in retrospect, child brain, absolutely. That is terrifying. The more that you think about it and the less you just kind of,
Yeah, people are actually, shoving in chatbots to be the first line of defense for, depression. The hotlines and things like that. It's again, people are shoving it into all sorts of places and haven't thought through the potential
harm.
Honestly,
danger.
This is where I'd actually look at E and go for, you have to think
attack vectors.
Yeah, the different ways of attacking and exploiting this stuff, and even going beyond some of these things that deal with personal things, like companies that have trained data have had their stuff be leaked out because they they had some stuff that was trained on internal data. Actually, I think it was NVIDIA was one of the first ones.
That
had this happen to. They trained some of the stuff on their internal sources, and someone was able to get internal docs and internal strategy things out by asking the right questions. And I know that's come up in other places too.
Yes.
The
LLMs are good to augment, but they should not be the end state. At least not yet.
Yeah. I think we're kind of in a period where everyone is learning how to work with them.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a lot more of these explosions and issues until there's a bit more of a reality check with them. The one of the other issues that I have concerns about, and this is actually something that a company has actually done some analysis on, has been for the stuff like Copilot, where the senior engineers are seeing a big productivity boost. They're they know how to use it, they know how to interpret it, they know how to get what they want out of it, and they know the limitations of it. But junior engineers that don't know the code base, know the language as well, are spending more time on prompt engineering and getting the wrong thing than they are actually spending time in development. And this is coming up especially when it comes to PR reviews and things like that, where the senior engineer will be what do you did this, but where are the tests? Where is this? Why are you doing it this way? And they legitimately cannot answer those questions. And there needs to be more, there's serious concerns that, the newer engineers that are coming online now that have access to this stuff are not going to be able to really think through and develop like those deep core skills that like the let's say like the current generation and older have.
I dueling throat clears. I agree. In Chicago, one of the things that I did was I moderated a panel, and it had a bunch of folks that also happened to have different LLM solutions. I brought up that anecdote. Hey, we're seeing that senior engineers can actually use this and, utilize it reasonably well, get an actual benefit out of it. Junior engineers just crash and burn with it. Why do you think that is? It had to do with learning. Like, you already a senior engineer would already have, like, established patterns, established opinions. I'll just say one of the people that was on stage was Brendan Burns. And he was saying, I use Copilot. It has accelerated my ability to learn Rust. And you think about it, it's like, okay, you have an editor that can just by default give you the correct idioms for Rust. So you're not a Golang programmer that's learning to do Rust, and you're writing Rust like a Golang programmer. No, like, you can use it well enough where it will kind of guide your learning, so you learn the proper way to do Rust. But that's great.
Yeah, that's great. But I think that also takes a more senior engineer.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
We're not at the point where we can give this tooling to a junior engineer or an entry level person and then expect them to benefit.
Yeah.
They'll use it as a crutch, and the crutch is going to break, and they're going to become Tiny Tim with a broken leg and then a broken arm.
Yeah, and this sort of pattern, even going beyond what some of these companies and groups have seen, like, we see it in open source. Like, one of the big issues that has become more of a thing, and not just for Kubernetes, but for like various other projects, is spam PRs.
Oh yeah.
Where it is like someone has taken an issue and roughly sketched it out to get a really poorly done answer to just like replace a function. But the problem is, like, they will open the PR with that, and they will, they don't implement tests. They don't actually go anyplace else to actually implement the function change that they have made. There's a lot of things that they just don't follow up on. And the really frustrating part is, like, it looks just good enough where
it passes a sniff test.
It passes an original sniff test. So like, if you're a maintainer doing quick triage and you see something that looks like, moderately okay, like, okay, this person might know what they're doing. I'll put it over here to like review and or triage. And then when you actually spend the time to go through it, like, it's just like, it's junk. And that takes more time to go through and sort out than, the
other thing, as a reviewer, when I'm like reviewing code, there's kind of like multiple things that I'll do. If I see like a code change and I don't immediately go, this makes sense, or
yes, why?
Exactly. I'll ask why. And then I'll try to rationalize what they were trying to do, why they were trying to do it, so that I can give them meaningful feedback. And
that takes time. And
that takes so much time. And like, not even just time.
Brain space.
It is a mental burden.
Actually, sort of the slight tangent, but on, not for code, but for CFP submissions.
Oh my god.
Like, GitHub Universe saw like a 3x increase in submissions and a lot of junk, and it takes a lot of brain space to go through those. And then, what's her name? George talked about it this morning.
You want me to look?
Marlo.
Intel?
Yeah, and so in her category, like reviewing CFPs, she made a post on LinkedIn about this, and just like when 80% of the submissions you're reading are auto-generated like crap that looks, again, it's just good enough that it passes like a quick first pass, and you actually have to spend effort to look and see like, no, this is bullshit. Like that gets tiring. You're doing that over and over and over again, and it's just like,
hey,
it sucks the life out of you.
Just so you know, there were like 2,700 CFP submissions for Paris.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2,500 for KubeCon proper.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, 2,500. Yeah. But if you include colos, it's like...
Yeah, I know if you include colos, it's insane. And, like, the reviewers are having, like, there isn't enough knowledgeable reviewers to scale well on this stuff. And it sucks. And, like, there isn't a good mechanism to auto-detect this stuff either.
So,
actually, you can rant. I'm going to go get another one of these because I already drank through one. Do you want me to grab you one?
Yes, please.
Be right back.
Is Luna out there being sad?
Yes. Can I let her in or should I?
Yeah, you can let her in. Come here, dummy. Hi. Quick break. Anyways, I think I'm going to cut Bob off. I think we've had enough LLM ranting. Luna, you're not going to be allowed in here if you can't calm down. You need to be a calm girl.
Do you want to give her a squirrel?
Foxy?
Foxy?
Yeah, give me Foxy. Do you need Foxy? There you go. Go lay down. Thank you. Enough ranting about LLMs. Let's talk about some... yeah, Taylor.
Yeah.
There's so many attack vectors for LLMs, not even around security per se, but even in ways to change the behavior or mess up processes. Yes. Yeah.
Many folks have spoken to it, like advise folks on like internal only. Yeah.
Completely agree. Like,
I'm actually kind of waiting for, like, we have these security firms that will do the whole like red team stuff. Where is the red team AI group? Like,
they're probably busy doing it internally because
yeah,
they want to make sure that, internally they're tools.
Anyone looking for a potential like hype driven job right now?
Prompt engineering.
Prompt engineer, yeah. Red team prompt engineering.
Red team prompt engineering. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's stop poo-pooing on LLMs. Let's bring it back to our bread and butter.
Okay.
Kubernetes.
I can put this back on now. Like,
yes,
I'm no longer in the angry rant mode.
You're no longer evil Bob. So, how can Kubernetes help AI, ML, batch, LLM training? Like, what can we do to enable this? Because one thing that I think will be said multiple times, we've already, I think, said it once, and we're going to say it again. Kubernetes is a solid foundation. It's the platform that we're building everything else off of.
Yep.
In my opinion, LLMs are just another application.
Yeah.
And that's like how I treat them in
Clayton's
my head.
quote from like Tim's talk, where like inference is the new web app.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will take full credit for this. I gave it to George for his talk, and I said, like, if inference is the new web app, then Kubernetes is the new web server.
That's very good. That is legitimately solid.
Yeah.
And you don't normally make changes to the web server unless there are deficiencies. You have an app and there's something busted in the web server. Like, normally you don't touch it, you just write your app and you go. And I think we're at that point with LLMs in general, running on Kubernetes. Like, there are definitely optimizations and improvements that we can put into Kubernetes to make things better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
one of the things that like I have said several times over the years is like one of the things Kubernetes is good at when we look at the ecosystem and when we see patterns of like, multiple apps and things like that implementing sort of similar but, competing or different things, then it makes sense if we can actually take some of that and put it into Kubernetes core somehow. And we want to reduce the complexity that it is for the ecosystem to develop things on top of it. And what was I going to say? I'm brain farting. Here we go. So we reduce the complexity of the ecosystem by taking common patterns and putting those into Kubernetes, and that allows the ecosystem, the apps being built on top of that, to really excel at being different and going in you know what I mean.
I know.
Yeah.
But do they?
Hopefully they know. But like it allows them to better focus on what differentiates them and basically become the better app, the better application that they can be. And one of these things we're seeing it since I've considered flagging author. So yeah. This must be on a big lag.
Yeah, maybe there is a crazy lag.
I'm just seeing your comment now, and that was like a couple minutes ago.
So, would the CNCF consider flagging AI-authored submissions? I think it's hard to detect now. Yes. Yes. We would love to do that. We would also love to pretty much require, I don't want to say ban, but like require submissions to not be AI-generated. Ideally, if I were God King Emperor, I would have it if it detected that your submission will say 85% chance it was AI generated. Auto deny, here's the appeal process.
Or just go into a queue for another review.
I feel like that second review process would be the appeal.
If we did have a good way of protecting this.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it's like 85% chance this was AI generated.
So, like some of the stuff that like helps us as reviewers sort of determine like if a post is actually accurate or not. I don't want to like spoil this as a secret or whatever, but like it's the benefits of the ecosystem and additional resources. Like there are so many speakers that don't use that additional resources tab. Like use that to put like your other talks, like any other explanations or anything like use that just for other things that you can do to,
I will say, having done reviews, Luna's being pushy. Having done reviews, you could have the best, and I mean the best CFP submission. Like talk description, title, it is perfect. If you do not have additional resources and you left benefits to the ecosystem blank, I'm not. Like,
I will say most of the submissions that I have reviewed so far have all had no additional resources. They have all had benefits to the ecosystem, but
That's
no
good.
additional resources.
Well, like, I'm saying...
Also, Taylor +1 to put LLMs into an endless queue of LLMs.
That's mean. That's really mean. But I like it.
Also, Jay, I'm not sure what you mean by for PRs too.
Are you talking about putting LLM-generated PRs into a queue? Because if so, I would also agree.
I wouldn't want to just make it like... I don't want to like send up more notifications to maintainers somehow.
Well, no, like in my mind, if there was a way to detect a PR was LLM generated, I'm not going to say a Copilot PR where someone actually did the thing. That's exempt. What I'm saying is somehow someone literally auto-generated a PR using an LLM, right? If we have a way to say with 85% certainty, and that number I'm just pulling out of thin air, right? But if 85% certain this PR was completely LLM generated,
It's getting warm.
I am perfectly fine with those PRs going into a queue. And yeah, it kind of sucks. You wind up triaging them last.
Okay, I get what you're saying now.
Like
When you said like LLM respond to that, like I didn't want to create a more notifications.
No. I'm saying like, hey, this PR gets flagged as honestly even like auto label it, LLM suspect, something like that. Yeah. And then like when you're doing PR and issue triage, you then know, I'm probably gonna bias this to last.
Yeah.
That like, and I think that's fair. I don't.
So we jump back to LLMs.
Yeah, I know.
We should go back to
DRA.
Okay.
Dynamic resource allocation.
Yeah. Jumping back to like some of the stuff, and when it comes to like reducing the complexity and making things better for the ecosystem, there's like honestly probably the best thing to come out of the AI ML batch gold rush has been a lot of improvements to Kubernetes for batch jobs, and some of them are like finally adding like there's scheduler improvements, there's index jobs. Index jobs will give you like a numerical identifier for each job that's being spun up. So like there's a lot of these common patterns that have been in the batch space for years that Kubernetes has kind of lacked. We're finally starting to see it like really catch up, and like there are groups that are like we were talking about running batch jobs on Kubernetes in like
2016.
When did Slurmnetes come around? Was that 2017?
When did I make? Okay, so technically,
is this yours or mine?
Mine's over here.
Okay.
I'm on the left. Technically, we were talking about batch jobs, specifically cron jobs, back in 2014.
Yeah, because fun fact, cron jobs exist because of an issue that he created in Kubernetes way back in the day.
They would have
done it eventually, but like.
So I wrote Slurmnetes
2017,
December 2017.
I know I was like we were both doing talks on Kubernetes for batch in 2017.
Yeah.
Anyway, like we have been a proponent of using Kubernetes for these kinds of like HPC, HTC style jobs for quite some time now, and like we're seeing a lot of recent changes which are good. Before we like dive into some of that stuff, like before these changes that make it better, there are groups out there. Specifically, I want to call out like Ant Financial for doing awesome stuff, where they have 20,000 node Kubernetes clusters. That's more than anyone has like advertised that they have done, and they are spinning up hundreds of thousands of pods and like scheduling them in like a minute.
That's ridiculous.
Like and these jobs are like 2 minutes long. Like they are real HTC style jobs, high throughput computing. Sorry, like lots of very short lived jobs, and like most people would tell you that like etcd and all that isn't capable of that. It is. It just requires the right tuning. I don't have the link handy, but there was a talk at KubeCon China 2021 by Ant Financial where they dived into some of these modifications to like etcd and the Kube API server to make it handle this sort of stuff.
I'm looking.
Yeah, there's a conversation in the batch working group channel in Kubernetes Slack. We're talking about etcd, and the link is posted there. Yeah, it might be Ant Group, but yeah, there's a story of managing Okay, so this is they did the talk on 15K nodes, but they're doing 20K nodes now.
It's too big.
It's too big. Just grab the Sched short link.
Oh yeah. Your smart cookie.
So I want again, that was happening in 2021 before all these recent changes to make Kubernetes better for these types of things. So I touched on like index jobs, lots of improvements for like NUMA, and then I will say like the big one right now is DRA, dynamic resource allocation. I've been talking for quite a while. Do you want to talk about like DRA for a little bit?
You know DRA better than me.
Okay. One sec. Sorry. Okay. DRA, dynamic resource allocation, went alpha in 1.26. And it has a lot of potential to enable Kubernetes to consume various like hardware resources in a in a way that allows like the vendors in them to do things at a much like faster pace. The problem is that this is scary because it introduces a lot of complexity and failure modes that are very, that are anti-patterns of current Kubernetes. So like right now, when you request a resource in Kubernetes for like hardware, you're generally doing counts. So like I am requesting 1 GPU. And DRA introduces the concept of resource class and resource claim, sort of similar to storage, which I think is actually like a really nice model for various like hardware resources. And that enables like some like additional constraints, but like the questionable thing comes into you now require this third party thing to sort of aid the scheduler in making the decisions.
Yeah.
And it can actually, like, depending on how you do stuff, like, pods and containers could theoretically share devices instead of being, we're just giving one. So, like, you could carve up a GPU and say, like, this is getting this much resources of a GPU and going to this. And that can be, hard to potentially schedule around. And, when like right now, when a pod spins up, it assumes that those resources are there.
Yeah.
This means that those resources may not be there when they spin up. And like, how do you track all the conditions and various other things? So DRA is cool, but like it also doesn't work with auto scaling right now. That needs to be sorted out. There's a lot of potential for it, but the complexity is scary. And like, Tim Hawken did his talk at KubeCon where he's talking like complexity budget. And this is certainly a complex thing.
Yeah.
I don't think, I do think DRA is going to move forward, but there needs to be a lot more thinking like through everything. And I'm not saying like, Intel and NVIDIA, the two companies like sort of really driving it, haven't done that. But like there's a lot of other sort of like little intricacies in the API server and scheduler and things like that really need to be thoroughly thought out, because once, like, if this does go GA, it's there essentially for life, and we don't want to introduce anything that could make it easy for people to break themselves more so than they already can.
I also
sorry, that I didn't mean to like.
No, this you have both stronger opinions and stronger knowledge in this than me right now. What I will say is, this is something that I think has been a long time coming. Whether it, in terms of solving this problem, not how, but just approaching it.
I do agree with
this.
you.
This is a massive gap.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna open a wound. I remember it was slideless.
Yep, I remember doing that.
Like the GPU.
So
we had a startup that was doing
AIML for health
pathology.
informatics. Yeah.
God, that was so long ago. That was like almost 10 years ago.
Jesus Christ, really?
I think 7 years ago.
Okay.
But anyways, we ran into this issue with being able to, like, we would have to pull a whole ass GPU to do maybe 30 seconds worth of a job, and it's just like, this is awful.
So we wound up using a pod that would get the GPU allocated to it, and then basically have that pod run like be able to run multiple things, and it would get a signal to do it, and then it would do it. So like we know the pain.
Again, I think this is this is a problem that definitely needs to be solved.
Okay, I'm getting too hot. I need to take this down too.
You're fine. So that's Kubernetes really with, AIML and batch. Like, what else in the ecosystem is going on?
There's Karmada, which is a multi-cluster batch scheduler. I actually think one of the areas that I want to see a lot of growth in, and I think that there's a gap there, and is back to multi-cluster and multi-cluster scheduling and multi-cluster bursting. Because like one of the things that like CERN did a talk on it, like when they exhaust all the resources locally, they want to be able to burst up to the cloud for running their stuff. And right now, like the way CERN did it was that they had their own like third-party scheduler. I'm totally blanking on the name of it, but like it was really annoying to deal with. You and I both dealt with it.
Yeah. Wait, Condor?
Yes, Condor. HD Condor. They're using HD.
That was theirs? I didn't realize that.
So it wasn't just theirs, but like they were using HD Condor.
Oh yeah.
To burst, and that's not great. It'd be nice if there was a more Kubernetes native way to do that sort of stuff, and there isn't a lot of good multi-cluster options right now for that type of thing. But yeah, so Karmada's something that's doing that sort of stuff. Honestly, doing it pretty well. There's other projects in the ecosystem that aren't necessarily focusing on multi-cluster, but like Volcano, which is incubating now. It's born out of Kubatch.
Yeah, it was born out of Kubernetes
and Klaus.
Yeah,
Klaus. Yep, Klaus. It's been a while since I've talked to him.
Same. And then there's Kubeflow.
Yeah, Kubeflow. It's finally a CNCF project.
That was a long time coming.
Yeah.
This wasn't even planned, but that's actually a really good segue. Just talking about project growth in general in the community.
Are we outside of? Are we past AIML now and LLMs?
For now.
Okay.
Until we get to predictions. And,
Okay.
Well, we are and we're not, because I wanted to talk about project growth in the CNCF,
okay.
And then I looked at the December sandbox projects that were finally accepted,
Yep.
And the first one is
Kate's GPT.
Here's the thing. I like it because what it's trying to do is, and I'm going back to, in my opinion, the best use cases right now for LLMs. It is trying to augment what you are already doing. It is not trying to replace. It is trying to be
assist,
be another set of eyes, be another resource for SREs to help diagnose and help identify problems.
My big thing, like at least right now, as far as I know, it's basically just regexes on logs, and that triggers some things.
Yeah. I don't know if it's changed. I haven't looked at it in a while.
Okay.
So I don't want to judge. But, I mean, even then, I was talking about this when I was working at Red Hat with a bunch of folks. And this was before, LLMs blew up. But the idea of, can you imagine being able to, train a model on millions of pods and be able to identify, whether certain thing is healthy and then what is not healthy, and then just start triggering alerts.
Yeah. And that sort of stuff sort of exists right now. And mostly looking at like counts
Yeah.
and of instances of things.
What was the
And there's all sorts of stuff in like Prometheus and like
Riemann?
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
It was that thing that would look at metrics and then it would automatically identify what healthy is and would generate alerts when things went outside of certain standard deviations.
Yeah.
I think it was Riemann. But I mean, like, that sort of thing is still... It's not meant to be the ultimate solution, but it is meant to kind of augment things.
Assist.
Yes. So, like, KHGPT, just, again, December, like, the last couple weeks, these were accepted to Sandbox. Spider Pool, kind of going back to...
Yep.
You know,
MPI and
MPI and everything, like... A way to handle high performance and high throughput networking with Kubernetes.
So, fun fact, one of the things I did at the University of Michigan is our HPC cluster was all InfiniBand. And I was able to get Kubernetes, like I used SRIOV to carve up an InfiniBand adapter and mount InfiniBand into a pod. So that way, basically doing shared memory across a cluster. 2017.
We did really awesome shit back in the day.
Yeah.
What's happened?
We're in more meetings.
We're in more meetings. Easegress, a new cloud-native traffic orchestration system. I'll admit, I glanced at these, so I'm not going to, like, be the ultimate judge. You should, like... Whoever's listening or watching this, please do not use my opinions as any sort of judgment. Because, again, 30-second glance. That looks really cool. They have a large ecosystem, and this is just one piece of the way that they handle, like, networking and, again, like, routing.
So the group says Mega Ease. I read that as Memes.
If only.
Yep.
But yeah, like, Easegress is there's Ease Mesh. Essentially, it's like a whole SMI from the look of it, but it looked interesting. Cubestellar. Going back to when you mentioned it, I was laughing. Cubestellar, which is multi-cluster management.
It's specifically configuration management.
Correct.
Like, it will copy things to various... Like, it works by... specifying resources that should be copied to multiple clusters, essentially.
Imagine Cubestellar as a post office for your Kubernetes resources.
No takes us back to...
Stop it, Taylor.
Well, speaking of legally binding, go back to the whole GM thing.
Yes. So the Kraken, KRKN, it's...
That's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yes, but it was never a CNCF project. Now it's in the sandbox. Coming out of Red Hat, it is a chaos and resiliency testing tool. The way that it attempts to identify what healthy is, and then it will purposefully take parts of your application as well as parts of Kubernetes down, and then validate that things are healthy. Quasar kind of looked cool. Think of it as a container runtime for Kubernetes, but it's almost like a layer. And then you can have it use other actual runtimes.
Like Kata.
Yeah, kind of like Kata.
That's essentially what Kata does.
Yeah, but it's not Kata.
Yeah.
It's Quasar.
Yep.
Moving on. KubeBurner. KubeBurner, actually, I used while I was at Red Hat. It's another project coming out of Red Hat. But it is meant to do performance and scale testing both on Kubernetes and your application.
Oh, nice.
And it worked really well. So I'm kind of happy to see them finally open source. Well, not open sourcing it, but donating it. Yeah. And then I just picked one that happened recently, like days ago.
Open feature.
Open feature moved to incubation. And this is just another example. I mean, you look up at, a bunch of the sandbox projects. These are lowish level, RDMA networking, multi-cluster config management, chaos testing, container runtime. Infrastructure. But there is still so many other projects that are focused on that, layer above Kubernetes itself, right? And open feature is another example of we're focusing on the tooling further up and up into the application
I thought it
stack.
was mostly a way of uniform like flags.
Yeah, it's feature flags for your application.
But also, like, okay, I've seen them reach out to infrastructure projects about implementing it. Was the main thing.
Interesting.
Because it's just basically a common idiom pattern for doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's very, like, when you think about feature flags, do you think about infrastructure or do you think about the application that's running?
I tend to think about infrastructure.
God, you and I are different.
Well, you remember, like, in our entire...
Yeah, DevOps.
Yeah.
So anyways, open feature. Congrats, you're incubating. Very happy. I think we can finally get away from projects and LLMs in general. Actually, not really. Let's compare, if you will. We made predictions in the end of 2022 about 2023. Now let's compare how accurate we were. And in fact, I wonder if I can...
Copy paste? Or what are you thinking? Share your screen?
Yeah. Doop.
Except chat is...
We'll get rid of chat. There you
go. So on your predictions, I don't think WASM has become the eBPF of cloud native applications. At least yet.
I know.
It's still too early.
I will fix this. There we go.
Put us in the corner?
Yes.
And not tiny?
And not tiny. There we go. We're doing it live. Yeah. This is a miss. I still think it is a reasonable fit, but what I think is happening more, I'm not going to justify me being wrong, but I am going to...
But you're wrong.
But I'm wrong. But what I am going to say is my observation of what's happening with WASM. Because you look at VMs to contain, like this is how people describe it, right? You look at VMs to containers, and WASM is the container, and the VM is the container.
I don't even know.
That was bad. Being able to compile down to a WASM binary that is significantly smaller than a container, you don't have to deal with packaging a Linux kernel and your libraries. It is an actual compile.
The best of Go for other things.
Yes. And when we are talking about, take a shot, LLMs and other things that require hardware resources, WASM is a really good story. So you have more people that are looking at WASM as an actual runtime, not just a way to augment existing workloads.
Yeah.
So that was a miss. So these were safe predictions, and that was wrong.
Developer experience is a +1 on becoming like
as the primary driver for innovation. I mean, you look at a bunch of the projects that we have seen
Backstage.
grow, Backstage, etc.
That green is awful.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna fix it. Sorry.
That's still awful.
I've said I'm fixing it. Is that better? Anyways. Developer experience, I think that was a no-brainer. However, I will say you were also wrong about WASM.
Yep, I +1 your suggestion.
Tisk. You should know better.
I think the rest of them was pretty spot on.
DevX, yep. Supply chain security, we will continue to see iterative improvement. Yep. Usability has improved. And we do need more end-user training, but that's also been happening.
Yeah.
So, hooray.
And these are predictions for 2023.
They were predictions for 2023, and that is... We have seen that generally in 2023. We also... You predicted more KCD events. I knew the answer to that already, so... and good shot with batch and HPC. I did not... Especially in the last, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
That's been more correct than I could have even imagined.
I am very happy for that.
Yeah.
I love seeing the improvements for this stuff.
So, what about our bold predictions? I expected chat and AI ops adoption to actually get blocked by policy. And I was generally wrong. There have been a couple instances where there is, like, legal restrictions now. But, like, when I was talking about this and when I was thinking about this, whew, I was expecting a lot more restriction. And
I think a lot of that comes from people not understanding the technology more than anything else.
Yep. So what we're hearing here, what we're going to see here is no one should listen to me. Kubernetes content will decrease as developer experience focused projects increase. If you look at KubeCon talks, I think Kubernetes specific talks have decreased.
I would agree with you. That's also, I think, in a lot of
not I think it's not for the reasons that I was expecting, but because KubeCons as a whole are trying to
be more inclusive.
We'll say we are trying to cast a wider net in terms of what technologies we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
So I was wrong there, but I was right for the wrong reasons. FinOps will become a top priority for many.
Yeah.
Yep. But also for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Macroeconomic
conditions.
Son of a bitch. I think we did all right. The WASM thing was a miss. Well, you actually hit pretty much everything, so I'm going to be curious about 2024. I didn't see what you wrote.
I don't even remember what I wrote.
Oh, this is going to be good. Did you write anything?
I don't know. Scroll down.
Well, no, now I'm going to... Let's look at 2024 now. Full camera. Boom. You didn't write anything for 2024.
Nope, I completely forgot.
The only thing you wrote was, please no more LLM proposals.
Outlook and plans. And I wrote the stuff under Paris, like the massive amount of CFP submissions we saw. If you haven't booked a hotel, I recommend doing that now.
Yes. I guess we'll do like the outlook for events, and then we're just going to off the cuff figure out our 2024 predictions. Yeah. That'll be fun. Highly recommend if you are planning to attend KubeCon EU 2024, aka KubeCon Paris, book your hotel now.
Yeah. The one suggestion that I have actually, and might seem counterintuitive, is don't use the CNCF recommended hotel booking process. And that is because the B network or whatever it is requires you to pay up front. And if you have to cancel, they take some back. It's like 3%.
I'm sitting on my hands.
I know. The big problem, like, I don't blame the CNCF for this one, because like when I was doing Googling about it, it looked like the venue has like a couple partners, and like if you go there, you have to use like B network, or there's another one. So I understand why the CNCF had to do that.
I'm a quote Watchman, and in fact I'm going to quote Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
Without condoning nor condemning, I understand.
Yep. So I recommend looking elsewhere than B network or whatever it is to book your hotel, just because you want to pay up front. And yeah.
Another big thing that we kind of touched on, but massive amount of CFP submissions for Paris. I will say it was 600 more than the
previous record.
Yeah, the previous record. That is mental math, like a 25% increase.
Yeah, I think a good chunk of that, specifically the growth of EU.
Yes, growth of EU.
And next year being the 10-year anniversary of Kubernetes. There's a lot of groups gearing. Like, there's a lot of people wanting to give talks
Oh yeah.
next year, and just more companies have like budgeted more for things next year.
Yep. Speaking of, again, for Paris, Clash Loop Backoff will be around. I imagine it will also be there for Salt Lake City, but Salt Lake City, please no more LLM proposals. Is that your stance?
Yep, honestly, yeah. I'm reviewing them for Paris right now. Like, I will say it's a bit better. They only made up, I think, a fourth of the 260 submissions.
That's nuts.
I shouldn't more than a fourth. I think a third. So that's better than North America. But please, like, please stop. And please, for the love of God, stop using ChatGPT to generate your submissions, because you're just not going to make it. And all you do is create more toil. And if I see your name come up again, I am immediately going to deprioritize you because of that.
Clash Loop Backoff, Jeremy. It's not crash. You clash. You fight.
Okay.
So, another thing, 2024, that is going to... I guess I'm technically announcing this. But we are going to, the CNCF, with the community, start doing a TGI Kates style thing. Comically, do you know the current name of the project? Stream idea thing?
What?
Chat Loop Backoff.
Oh,
you make...
I get it.
You roll your eyes, but
I get it
worked so well when...
Because now you can have this loop back off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it was... Everyone was like, oh, this is great. I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I was using it in, like, internal docs.
Yep.
Because I just needed to name something, and I'm like, I'm so creative. But...
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
We're targeting our first stream is going to be February 1. It's going to be on Thursdays at noon. And it's going to be similar format.
Noon our time or noon?
Noon Central.
Central.
I think. I'll double check. But the whole idea here is we're going to do what the other stream did way back when.
Yeah.
We're going to pull a project off the shelf and we're going to just mess with it. The big thing is...
You know what'd be great? Joe's retired. Poke him and see if he wants to do it again.
I plan to.
Okay.
Like, the whole thing is we're going to... There were so many people off that Twitter thread from Chicago.
Yeah.
I think it started with Alexis, and he was like, we need to bring this back. And I was like, yes, we do. Let's do it. So
Yep.
we're going to do it. February 1st. We're not really going to work on it before the end of the year, but, all of January we're going to kind of plan it out. And the idea is we're going to work on scheduling out an entire quarter's worth of content so that we can just kind of autopilot. Yeah. And then once we see what works, what doesn't work, we can optimize it and make it better. But we want to bring in, like, ambassadors to do it. We want to bring in community members because we don't want it to just be, like, one person.
Have it be a great way to show off the newest feature in Kubernetes.
Have it be a nice way to look at sandbox projects that just got accepted.
Yep.
Like, that's... You see, like, that's the plan.
I know.
So that's coming for 2024. There's going to be a lot of hijinks, as you alluded to, around the 10-year anniversary of Kubernetes. There's going to be some stuff in Paris. There's going to be some stuff in Salt Lake City.
By the way, the 10-year anniversary is June 6th. Right in between EU and NA. Just as a FYI for people that are...
Yep. What else in terms of events and CNCF things?
Wait, I actually might be wrong.
There's KubeCon.
No. I think I might be mixing up with another date. One sec.
Uh-oh. Bob, wrong?
It happens sometimes.
While you look it up. There's KubeCon India. That's.
Do we actually have like a date and location now?
Now I have to look something up. I mean, I know there is a KubeCon India 2024. I think it's December. I think, not legally binding, do not scream at me. Maybe this is something that I shouldn't have said out loud, but it's probably going to be Q4. Probably. Did I close our doc? No. Let's talk about what we think are going to be big things in 2024 while you look at that date. I'll start because you're on your phone. We talked about, you and I, and a couple other folks talked about this in Chicago.
Nope, I was right. June 6th.
You beast.
So my brain went to, wait, is it the 14th? No, it was 2014.
Got it, yeah.
That's why my brain was being dumb.
I think we're going to see, or I would like to see, maybe this is less of a prediction and more, I want to see LLM artifacts be treated like OCI artifacts. And there are multiple reasons for this. For one...
Is this a prediction or a desire?
Both.
Okay.
I think multiple people want this. I said it in some random doc for AI Hub and everyone latched onto it. And the main reason is we already have a compelling story and tooling.
It plugs into like everything else that we've done for OCI.
Correct. Supply chain security. Yep. How we store and serve.
Yes, that way you can basically easily integrate the history of an LLM.
We know like these are solved problems that we should not have to re-engineer.
Yeah. And
it would take minimal massaging to make that happen. And on top of that, I was talking about supply chain security with LLMs, right? We need that. We need more of an SBOM type of thing. Not necessarily.
I agree with you. Like being able to track the origin and track to training, especially as this stuff becomes more prominent.
Yes. Yes.
When something happens and it is bad, you need to be able to quickly trace the origin.
Like, I don't need... I'm sorry, this is going to be... fuck it. I'm getting Kobe beef, right? I do not need to see the whole cow. Give me that certificate that, says this was the cow and it was from this farm.
Yep.
Like, good enough. You can still trace problems and anything else back to it, right? We need that. And we don't currently have that. In terms of...
Where's the Chris Farley quote?
No. Wait, what is the Chris Farley quote? I can get a good look at a T-bone by sticking my head up a bull's ass, but I'd rather just take the butcher's word for it.
Yes.
Nailed it. Yes. I want to be able to link to the training.
Yeah.
Like, at least when it comes to like open source models, obviously.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense for internal organizations who are trying to do this themselves. Again, especially if internal data does happen to get leaked somehow. Like it frankly just makes sense.
Yeah.
And like there is tooling that could come about eventually that is more tailored to it and more built for it.
Yeah.
But like I could eat like the biggest thing would be the easy lift and shift of taking advantage of what's out there.
Yep.
Like
it is a solved problem. We can move on.
Yeah.
Now the other thing that I will say, this is turning into LLM predictions, but they are somewhat cloud native related. And again, I talked about this. Being able to, this is kind of a twofer, chain LLMs together and being able to being able to define and store filters. Now, what do I mean by that?
I know what you mean.
I know what you mean, but I want to
for the audience. Please explain.
There are, we'll say, certain seat belts, safety belts, filters when you are getting LLM output. You might not know this. I feel like we should standardize a way to develop, store, and serve these filters, and you're essentially chaining output. You get an output from an LLM, you run it through a bunch of filters, and then the user eventually gets the data output, right? Much like being able to define a pipeline, I want to be able to define, LLM output into an LLM, or LLM output into a filter, into a filter, into a filter.
I think there actually might be a tool that does this right now. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Well, if anyone knows, please link to that tool. But
it is a pun on LLMs.
Are you hold on. The only thing I've seen is like open LLMetry, but that's for OTel.
No. I'll have to look it up.
Filters, treating filters as OCI artifacts the same way that I want LLM models themselves to be treated as OCI artifacts, and then being able to define pipelines easily, so you can chain that. Like, I want that, and I think we're going to start seeing that in a more open source fashion.
Yeah.
Because I think this probably already exists, but it's internal. I cannot imagine like something like Copilot not having like layers of filters. But I want to see it, in my way.
Yeah.
That's bold prediction / desire in terms of LLMs. I've been talking. You have ideas. Do you have ideas?
Taylor said there's LangChain to enable that with JavaScript Python, but I know there are some specific LLM stitching projects out there too.
LangChain.
There's a lot of KubeCon submissions around that.
Around LangChain?
Yeah.
LangSmith, LangServe agents build context-aware reasoning applications with LangChain's. Why do I have to go to sales? I don't want to go to sales. Retrieval tooling. Thank you, Taylor. I guess I have some reading.
Okay.
So, what do you predict?
Honestly, it's a pretty safe prediction. Continual growth for batch and HPC.
It's the only way to really train LLMs, so ride that hype cycle, baby.
I do expect DRA to advance just because of like
there's so much behind it right now.
That and the like desire for being able to share GPUs.
Yeah.
I don't have, I'd say, bold prediction right now, at least that I can think of the top of my head. Another thing that like I think we are going to see more projects start to fall down and fail. More so, not necessarily like just the CNCF, but like again, going back to whole macroeconomic conditions.
Yeah.
There is a lot of projects that are basically propped up by like one company, and a lot of them have been retasked, folded, bought, and we haven't seen the full fallout of that yet.
If you want my hot take, I am not wearing my CNCF hat on. And we've had this conversation years ago. Like, the bloat, the number of projects at the CNCF.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say it's bad anymore. I actually see some value in it, but I will say, is it reasonable? In my opinion, now it is, so long as we are okay with projects
failing.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's in my opinion, that's actually the wrong phrasing. That's negative.
I
phrasing.
know.
And I'm not even going to say archiving, but like there is such a thing as a project life cycle, and a project being spun down because it's not being used as much, or maintainers aren't available for it.
Yep,
that should be fine. Like
it's the same. Like I feel the same way about like fork events. Like people see it as the end of the world, but like forking is a natural part of open
circle of life.
And if a forked version of one of these archive projects takes off,
cool.
Yeah,
reapply. You'll get in.
But
Assuming the TOC votes and
yeah,
like,
in general, though, I just see more projects becoming stale.
I can agree with that. I also think there are some changes that the TOC want to implement that will both improve the health of projects, but we're also going to then start seeing projects that are not being held to the standard that we want, and that might cause either a flurry of activity or, hey, we might want to archive you because you were not
Yeah.
meeting the standard that we want for our projects, even in the sandbox.
Yeah.
So, those, let me actually write those down so in 2024's wrap up we can do that. So, Jeefy, OCI artifacts for LLMs and filtering, chaining. Yes, thank you, Taylor. Bob.
More batch HPC.
More batch HPC. You got to double down on what you were right on. And what was it? Projects
It's becoming stale.
coming stale
Yeah.
for various reasons. I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
God, I hate that all my predictions are only LLMs. That's kind of hype cycle-y. I don't know. My brain hasn't been all here.
I'll make one other prediction. Just growth in multi-cluster.
Growth in multi-cluster. I like that. I'm going to +1 that. Okay. We are actually getting to the end.
And we're 10 minutes over.
Did you have something at 2?
No.
Well, then we're going to finish. Because I wrote some questions for you, damn it, and I'm going to make you answer them. Outlook of 2024 is done. We only have really 2 things left. One, because we've been answering Q&A as we've been gone, more or less.
Yep. Yeah,
I think Taylor now, just scrolling back up in chat, Taylor, I think we've answered how we really feel about Gen AI. So, that's that. Fireside chat. I prompted both Bob and myself. Write questions, but don't share them. Surprise. To ask each other. I'm going to open up my first question. By the way, logsec. Log-SEQ, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, logsec.
Logsec. I love it.
I wish I could use it.
Soon. Any fun Kubernetes gaming predictions? That's a good question, Taylor.
I will flat out say that more gaming companies using it behind the scenes.
Yeah. There was someone was. Oh, thank you, Taylor. You magnificent man.
Oh, I thought they were cloud native, more specific, but
No.
Okay.
No.
Just well,
Let me say it. uBlue.
yep.
Our friend George started this project 2 years ago now, maybe. Maybe less. He's been talking about, and honestly,
He's been a Linux desktop user for quite some time and willing to throw himself at various different things.
he has been gaming on Linux for ages. He has been. It's hard to describe, but like, George started a project called Universal Blue, and I mean,
It's taking off.
we are streaming on a uBlue box. I have another uBlue box that is on my desk that I've been working on pixie booting stuff. One of my laptops runs uBlue. Like I see the light. I have contributed.
Yeah.
I help, but I think uBlue is going to blow up. And like this desktop that we're also streaming on, like I play games on it. Yay! So yeah, I'm putting uBlue up on there.
Yeah.
Okay, fireside chat question. Hopefully that answered your question, Taylor. Some of this is cringe.
Okay.
What is one thing folks in this community probably don't know about you? And this is weird because you and I are both pretty goddamn open about everything. like I said, these are questions that we did not screen with each other, so he needs to think about it.
I have an easy answer. It's just, like, I don't want to have it be depressing.
Then don't use it.
I'm trying to think of something else.
I don't want to answer for you, but I have one. You spent your first year on a boat.
Oh. Yeah. So, yeah, that works. Oh, actually, I know one.
Go.
My mom grew up a few houses down from Bill Gates.
Oh, yeah.
And she and Bill Gates' sister were on the same downhill skiing team. Also, Taylor, you know about ublue.it, right?
Yes, David. I will link it. I will link it right now because it is legit.
I think you can literally go to ublue.it.
Yes, you can go to ublue.it. And it just redirects to the nice fancy link now. All right, do you want to ask me one? Do you want to go back and forth so it's kind of fair?
Favorite D&D moment of the year?
Fuck. Favorite D&D moment of the year?
I have mine.
So... That's actually tough. I'll tell you the one that came to mind. First off, no, none of them have to do with me dying. Thank you. In Jake's campaign, Rikune, my character, he's a rogue, has been... And I don't know if in character, by the way. Yes. I don't know if in character anyone else realizes how much he wants the item that everyone else has been, like, we've been chasing that claw thing. Like, and I've just been like, y'all seem fun. Like, I want to hang out with you. I'm bored. I need something to do, right? I want that fucking claw so bad. I want it so bad. And then finally, I take it. And then everyone, like, knows that I have it now. And I'm just like, the last few sessions, all I've been thinking about is getting this goddamn claw and being able to, like, run off with it. And no one cares that I have it. What do I feel? Like, and also I've been, like, I come from a village,
yeah.
You know, a village of thieves, and I'm, like, supposed to be in contact with them, and no one's sending me shit. So I'm just like, I'm out on my own, and I don't know what to do. And I kind of want to, like... Well, your character and my character already talked about, like, just leaving this group.
Yep.
And also killing that one NPC who...
It's a paladin that is the kind of, I am going to break down your door and enforce my will upon you kind of paladin.
He was an ass. He was awful. He essentially killed a couple because the couple went against his beliefs, and very much was an instance of...
Not only that, he anyone that was associated with them.
Yeah, it's like, I am going to burn your entire family bloodline. It was just unreal. So anyways, that was my favorite moment, right? Like, that instantly comes to mind is Rikune finally gets the claw and is just like... And no one else noticed, like, just, yeah.
Bosco
beaten. Oh, Bob, in this campaign, Bob had... Well, Bob's character...
It's a gnome wizard.
And he has a familiar.
His name's Bosco.
And the problem is, he didn't know how to unsummon his familiar, so he would just kill it. And there was this instance where we all went to... It was like...
By the way, Bosco... This has happened enough to Bosco.
Bosco knows.
Yeah, Bosco knows and just kind of accepts his fate.
Yes. We were at, like, a bathhouse or something, and you summoned Bosco as an octopus.
Yes. And no, there was no weeb hentai-ish moments.
None of that.
Something else happened.
But then afterwards, it's like, well, we need Bosco as, like, a bird or something. And so we go out into a back alley, and, like, we're blocking the view of the back alley while Bob's like a gnome is just beating the shit out of this octopus and trying to kill it so he can resummon it. And this event
around a crowd.
Yes, a crowd formed, and this event is now well known within the storyline, because now people are like, "Yo, that dude's crazy. He beats the shit out of like octopuses or octopi in alleys." Yeah. That's a good one. Twitter, is it still useful or is it too toxic?
It is still useful, because unfortunately there is still a large amount of people on there.
Yeah. And
it is the way to, like, especially to reach those outside the contributor community, a good avenue for that style of communication. Like, I would never say stop. Like, any of our big announcements or anything like that, we should always do it on Twitter, as well as
other platforms.
The frustrating thing has honestly just been the segmenting of the community.
Yeah. I know some people are just only on Mastodon.
Yep.
Some people are still only on Twitter. And then
Blue Sky
is somewhere. I lost my login to Blue Sky. Like, I can't log back in.
Whoops.
Yeah. I need to figure that out. Hit me.
Favorite game of the year?
Favorite game of the year? That? Ooh. There are 3 games that I've really been playing this year. I'm not going to count us hopping into WoW over the last couple weeks, you know.
I popped in exactly once.
I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3. I played a shit ton of Diablo 4 at first. And I have been playing Slay the Spire nonstop. I'm going to say Slay the Spire for me. Just because my problem with single-player games, Baldur's Gate in general, I can't play single-player games. I just can't. I cannot justify in my head, and this is like this is a pathology in how I think. I cannot sit and play a single player game for more than 40 minutes to an hour, because I have the same problem with TV shows and movies.
Bored?
Not bored. It's like I can't justify the time. It's like I could be doing this.
For me, it's I don't want to say the exact opposite, but like the single player game has to have a very engaging story and or very engaging characters for me to like stay engaged. And in which case, like, and you know how I tend to play RPGs and things like that. It's just like
plow through it in like a single sitting.
Yeah, a vacation for me tends to be a game I really want to play comes out, and I will take that week off, and I will spend that week playing the game, and then I'm
I'm an idiot. No, there is an answer to this. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, that's my answer.
I was thinking like games that I had played. But I mean,
yeah.
Alan Wake 2 was so good. If you count playing it as watching you play it.
I would.
But like, Alan Wake 2. Herald of Darkness is such a banger of a track.
To me, too, like, that was the right length for a game.
Yes. That was 30...
It was about 25 hours.
25 hours?
For us.
Yeah. That was really, really good. And the amount of detail. Like, I made you stop and look at, like, graffiti, and it's like, oh, this graffiti actually means something, too. Like...
And we watched a 15-minute movie inside the game.
We watched a 15-minute movie inside the game, and it was incredible.
We watched a rock opera inside the game.
Yes, we did.
And regarding, like, Baldur's Gate, like, for me, I like Baldur's Gate, but the problem is sort of similar with, like, time. I don't have the time to play it. Like, I cannot invest that much time into...
I thought Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be, like, my Steam Deck game. I mean, I was on a flight for 24 hours, Japan and back. I wound up working and like I spent a couple hours listening to a book, but otherwise, like
Yeah.
I never even I brought out my Steam Deck once to play a game of Slay the Spire.
Yeah, like I like Baldur's Gate. I like the story of Baldur's Gate. At this point, I've basically read the plot and watched stuff on YouTube because I'm just frankly never going to finish the game.
I have not done that yet.
I just can't commit to all especially like a lot of times I only get OSS notifications is my favorite mini game. I've given up on GitHub notifications, but like a lot of times I will get an hour here or there in terms of time, and so actually Jake and I were talking about this and missing Overwatch.
Overwatch was
because
such a
it was a
good
great game where it's just like you have 30 minutes.
Let's get a couple games.
Let's just get a couple games in, and there hasn't been a good game for us like that in a while.
No, not at all. All right, you have been in Minnesota for a while now. What is your fondest Michigan memory? I'm not going to say what is the thing you miss the most, because that's going to immediately be Meyer, and we've already done that.
Yeah.
But I'll say fondest Michigan thing. I have an answer to this immediately.
Fondest Michigan thing?
Sure.
The fall. Michigan Falls. Like
Michigan
just
Falls.
Everything that was available there. Like it's not quite the same here.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the apples or anything like that.
They might, because like Jake took Ray to an apple orchard.
Yeah, but like it's not like
It's not Michigan apples.
yeah.
For me, wow. Bye.
Report.
Woof.
I mean, they are Mr. King of Florida.
Wow. For me, Demos. I miss Demos.
Yeah, Demos was awesome.
I had.
There's nothing like it here.
Oh yeah, we were at the OSS brunch. Like, I miss. Not like a deli.
Yeah.
And Demo, like, I know we're not going to talk about what we missed, but like, fondest thing there was always Demos. Like, Demos was that comfort place. You knew exactly what you were getting. You were getting a shit ton of food, and it was
Tell them what Demos is.
Demos was this deli and donut place in Ann Arbor.
It's right near my parents.
And the Florida man is actually Florida scam. People are calling me.
And
What the hell? Thank you for moderating this shit. I'm gonna...
you paused it?
Oh, I paused the stream in there, but what I'm gonna do is remove the YouTube chat, because if we're gonna get this shit, I don't want to have it in the recording.
And,
It'll take a second to
okay, I didn't realize you hit.
Oh, what fun it is to
Yep.
live stream in a one-horse open sleigh. Cool. Yes, thank you, Taylor and Joe. I saw you both.
Yep.
You have any more for me? Because I have a few more for you.
Well, you didn't finish explaining what Demos was.
Oh, Demos was a deli and donut shop. It was in Ann Arbor. They made sandwiches that were like over the size of your head. They also did breakfast, and as most places in Michigan will do, they did like a great Mediterranean food as well. But the donuts were incredible. There's this Polish specialty called punchkis. They are something that come around during Fat Tuesday. They had the best punchkis ever. I miss Demos. Demos was the kind of place. Yikes. Thank you, Joe. Good God.
Yep.
Anyways,
They call them cholesterol tablets.
yeah, cholesterol tablets because they're deep. They're just deep fried, beautiful donuts.
Yeah. He'd also, like, we were longtime friends with him, and he would basically kick people out of the store and let us stay there, and would break out a bottle of Jack, or what was it that he would?
It was a whiskey of some sort, and
yeah.
it was on game days when like no one else was there, so we would all just sit around and watch the game. Demos was just wonderful.
Yep.
You have any more from me?
Yeah. Outside of lack of mire, what is your least favorite thing about Minnesota?
Outside of my lack of mire, well, I did kind of answer this, and I will give you a better one.
The lack of deli.
The lack of delis. Okay, least favorite thing about Minnesota.
If you also want to say like your favorite thing, too, that works too.
No, least favorite thing. Well, I'm kind of channeling Susan here, but dog owners here just do not give a shit if their dog is just making noise. And I'm not talking about the one that triggers Susan. Like, a lot of the dog owners around here just will let their dogs bark outside, and it's just like, we live in a pretty, nature-esque area, and then, you have your windows open, and then it's just dogs barking.
For me, I think it's less of a thing of Minnesota and more so neighborhoods that...
Fireworks?
Well, outside of... I'm specifically talking about like the dog barking, where the people get in the habit of just putting their dog in their backyard.
Yeah, just let them go.
That's other things I've encountered even like back in Michigan, where it's just like every house has the fenced-in yard because they just put the dog in back.
Yeah. I do have something. Least favorite thing about Minnesota. Traffic. The traffic here is insane compared to where we were. Like, the worst traffic in Ann Arbor.
We were in an ideal place, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, even like, when we moved here, there was Jake and other folks would make the joke about...
The bridges?
The bridges.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a bridge and it's, like, 2 hours before and after rush hour, there's going to be a traffic jam.
Yeah. Speaking of routinely off-leash, like, I have had multiple dogs jump fences and come at me in Ripley. This happened multiple times now.
Okay. We're going for some spice.
Okay.
With it now becoming VMware by Broadcom and perpetual licenses getting yeeted into the sun, and that is exactly how I phrased it, do you think there's room for a competitor in that ecosystem now?
Yes and no. Like, I think it wouldn't be a startup or anything like that. It's more likely Red Hat or something like that would...
Red Hat turns like KubeVirt into KubeVirt as a service. They kind of already...
Not even KubeVirt, but like they have their own like it's like OpenStack and things like that. Like they have their virtualization stuff.
Yeah.
And I can see, because that is another enterprisey contract thing that a lot of groups already have deals with, I could see, some groups basically like, we don't want to deal with VMware anymore. Broadcom. Here's another solution by a company that, we already have a relationship with.
Yep.
And will support us.
Interference? Huh. Good to know. Weird. Then I'm going to keep my phone over here. All right, Bob, I have one last question because now you're going to be able to see it.
Okay.
Give me an off-the-cuff plan on how to improve cloud-native academic and research computing.
Academic, research, and...
Cloud-native. How do you make it better?
Integrate the stuff earlier into teaching. Like, and the same thing with, like, teach people how to get and do basic stuff much earlier, because we're still seeing college students come out without, like, any sort of real basic experience.
Dude, do you know, apparently, how many people came up to CNCF staff during AWS reInvent with this exact comment? Where's the college curriculum? Where's the higher education curriculum? And they were telling me this.
Other people have brought it up to me.
Yeah, well, they're telling me this, and I'm like, well, we have a higher ed working group. We're trying to expand this as well. Also, like, Bob and I know.
Yeah, Mel had no idea about our history with teaching in academia.
Yeah.
I gave her...
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the things on my to-do list. I have to, like, I'm going to give her a bunch of links to some of our...
Yeah, I gave her the TLDR of, like, abstract infrastructure and some of our previous teaching experience.
Yeah, so I need to link her a bunch of that stuff. That's all the questions I had for you.
Yep.
Any more for me, or are we...
I think we're pretty much through it.
2.5 hours. Jesus. Whew. All right. I think we have answered all of our questions. We have banned all of the spammers. I want to give a massive shout out and much love to everyone in the cloud native and open source communities that both Bob and I spend so much time in.
Again, it's how you make your friends in your 30s.
Yeah. I will plead, implore, if possible, try to take some time, if you can, at the end of the year to reflect and recover from what became a wild 2023. And the other thing that I'll say is holiday times can be rough on some folks. If there's anything you ever need, please never hesitate to reach out to either of us.
We're both online much more than we should be.
Correct. And we genuinely give a shit. So if we can help, please let us know. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this year's end of year wrap up stream. Thank you, everybody. Have a safe and happy end of year, New Year's,
Thanks.
holidays.
See you later.
Bye.